Hi, I'm Dylan Taylor, Chairman and CEO of Voyager Space Holdings.
I'm Ken Eppins, founder and CEO of Orbit Guardians.
Hi, I'm Raphael Rodkin, founder of E2MC Space Ventures.
And I listen to the Cold Star Project.
And I listen to the Cold Star Project.
And I listen to the Cold Star Project.
This show is for entertainment purposes only and is not what is termed professional advice. The Cold Star Project is proudly presented by the Operational Excellence Society. Cold Star Tech is a supporter of the OPEX Society, and Jason Kanigan is a member of its board of advisors. Talk with us at Cold Star Tech to find out what we can achieve together with your Lean Six Sigma or Operational Excellence programs. And check out opexsociety.org to learn more. It's been about a year since I had Nic Chaillan on the show. He's the past Chief Software Officer of the United States Air Force and Space Force. And I wanted to catch up with him because I wanted to find out what new developments there have been in DevSecOps and what fundamentals are still important that we wish our leaders would understand. He has had his own show in this time, in the Nic Of Time. And I wanted to find out what his experience has been running his own show because, we're past 225 plus episodes here on the Cold Star Project. It's been 4+ years now. And the show here is quite different than it was in the beginning, let me tell you. So I wanted Nic on because he's a guy that I go to for the truth. I always hear great things about him from other people. He doesn't know that I'm going to say that, but it's true. And they want to hear from him too, so it's exciting to have him back. I also want to announce before we get into this interview that David Hamilton of the America's Future series and I are announcing a promotional partnership. There'll be a little more information about that coming up soon, but I'm really excited about that. David has put a ton of effort and years of his life into building the America's Future series into the preeminent national security and space technology conference, physical and virtual conferences platform that it is. So I think it's going to lead to great things. We align on values 100%, and I'm looking forward to where that goes. In the meantime, let's get back to Nic Chaillan and DevSecOps. Nic, welcome. So Nic, I appreciate you coming back. It's been about a year since we last talked. In that time, you stepped away from being the Chief Software Officer of the U.S. Air Force and Space Force, and you've been doing your own thing. Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing business-wise in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again. It's been a long time and a short time at the same time. It's kind of interesting how time flies. I guess looking back, it's very interesting how my time in the government was both the most frustrating and the most rewarding time in my life, and it's kind of interesting because I miss it quite a bit, particularly the people and the mission, right? I think that's something that you can never replace. It's been difficult because when you touch this kind of exciting work, going back to the commercial side, you're not going to build some stupid mobile app and be happy with yourself, so you want to come up with something that's pretty cool, and all my cool ideas require pretty massive amount of work. And when you sold a bunch of businesses and you have the complacency that I guess I have now, not having to make money to survive, I guess it's interesting how you don't find the same amount of energy. Plus I have 3 kids under 4-year-old, and so it's been fun to spend more time with them. What I've done so far, I guess, in the last 14 months is, one is continue to, help the department when I can and when they let me do it. Both, different CIO's office, helping with, the cloud and zero trust and software issues, still being the bridge often between teams and people in the government kind of struggling to find where to go. They still have not replaced me, so it's a big problem, And so what I've done is create first, a show in the Nic Of Time where we have a guest every week. A lot of government people coming from DoD and other agencies. A lot of tech discussions, deep dive, culture. It's been a lot of fun. I think we're pretty. I think we're at 54 whatever episodes. So it's a lot of fun every week, Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then, I created Along with Nic because I really think that the biggest struggle we have is, about learning and the kind of the inability of universities and schools to do right by their students. I had multiple universities reach out to me to build a curriculum on DevSecOps and digital transformation, but they refused to update it more than every 5 years. And I wanted every year, so I tried, hey, maybe we can settle and cut in the middle and do 3 years, but they refused even to do that. So they have no problem, charging a bunch of money to students, but they have a problem doing the work, so that's pretty despicable. And so I ended up creating my own platform. We got a lot of excitement. A lot of people subscribed. Doing a video every week, a live Q&A every other week. So kind of pushing a lot of innovation, a lot of content. We also launched a metaverse on Gather, which is kind of this Zelda-looking game where we have this kind of collaboration environment for people to come and share and learn. And there's kind of a Zoom / a learning platform all in one with Cloud Native Town. And it's completely free. Companies can push the content. We have a lot of innovation companies pushing their releases and explaining what they're working on. And I also joined, the board of 12 companies. So it's been a lot of fun too.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds like despite the energy thing you're talking about, you've kept yourself busy. I'm fascinated to hear about the university curriculum refusing to update more often than every 5 years. The work is that, maybe the fundamentals will be the same, but the work is going to change and the tools, right? So they're coming out, it sounds like, and then the employers are still having to educate them again, which
and when you look at DevSecOps particularly, and digital transformation as a whole, even the foundation changes a lot, and so it's maybe not every 5 years, but I would say every 2, maybe 3, so having a 5-year cycle is non-starter. But then, like you said, the upper piece of the training is changing probably every year. So with Learn with Nic, we're committed to updating the content every 6 months. So that's a lot of work. And I understand the pain of the universities. I think the biggest problem they have is the teachers are not even doing the stuff. So how would they teach people how to do it, and how do they keep up to then teach, right? So I think that's why self-learning is kind of so essential to get to the scale we need to be, to get all these talents trained. It's hundreds of thousands of people we need to train on DevSecOps. And I can tell you the talent gap is massive, which enables, I guess, employees to ask for a pretty crazy, I guess, base salary. Despite having 1 or 2 year experience, we see DevSecOps engineers starting at 250,000 a pop. Which is, probably a dream come true for many students coming out of school with 1 or 2 year experience. I don't think we've ever seen something like this before, even in cyber.
Right. Yeah, they're getting paid as much as the quants working on Wall Street.
Which is good, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. But it sounds to me like there's the opportunity to build in the ongoing learning, professional learning that lawyers, nurses, accountants, people of this ilk have to keep doing, right, and keep up on. And it's the Wild West days probably in this area. There'll be more structure as time goes on, but it needs guys like you to provide that, that leadership.
We need to disrupt the education market is probably the only market that has yet to be disrupted. So what you've seen, with Uber disrupting, and Uber-like, I guess, technologies and companies disrupting many fields. Despite COVID, I think the education market has yet to really be disrupted in any way, shape, or form. In fact, self-learning online has been a pretty big failure for students. And of course, you cannot replace interactions. Of course, the masks didn't help for the younger generations too. Very disastrous. I saw it firsthand with my 4-year-old. I think that was pretty insane to watch. Kids putting their hands in the mud and then touching the masks. It's just like it's just not going to work. So it's anyone could see that coming 5 miles away. But it's just interesting how we learn, and I guess changing the velocity of learning is going to be the big piece of the problem. But the other piece is self-learning. I think what I've done myself, since I didn't even go to college, I had to learn, and I think the issue you face now is kids only learn by having this hand-holding learning experience, and they have yet to learn how to learn by themselves. And in IT, you mentioned lawyers and nurses and so on, but the fact is IT's velocity of learning is much higher, I think, right? And so when you look at the amount of learning you have to do, I used to give an hour a day to my people to learn, first to catch up and then keep up. But I spend probably an hour and a half watching YouTube videos and stuff like that, to just know what's going on. So it's a pretty big investment of time, and most people, that's why I have my Learn with Nic tagline is invest in yourself, because people spend a lot of money on stupid stuff, but they don't do it when it comes to learning.
Yeah, true. Most coaching programs, training programs, and that they never get taken out of the box. It's
right.
less than 5%.
And I have companies buying Learn with Nic. It just makes me so upset. And then the employees are not using the seats, and it just drives me insane. Not even, I mean, if it was, if they logged in once and they don't like the videos, it's one thing, but they don't even log in once, and the companies is paying, and I make good money, but it is not the goal. The goal is to educate people. It just drives me. That's why I did the metaverse, because I'm trying to find different ways to get people excited about learning, and maybe a more collaborative experience. I think it's pretty fun, but even that, people need to be reminded, right? So we didn't have notifications, for example, right, to remind people, hey, you have not logged in for a week, or you've not watched a video in a month, so maybe that could be a piece of the puzzle we're going to bring to the table this year. So this next year, I guess.
Yeah. Folks, when you're on a mission like Nic is, like I am, and you create a program and people pay for it and don't use it, there's a cynical audience out there who will say, well, you just got paid, who cares? No, right. we burn, we hurt when people don't use our stuff. It's very, very upsetting. So Nic, I want,
and you see cat videos get millions of views.
Right. Yes.
So frustrating.
It's like, okay.
Right.
Let's drop. I like a cat video too, but like it's the lowest common denominator.
Right. That's what China is doing very well with Douyin, their version of TikTok, right? Douyin is pushing historical, educational content. Meanwhile, we're pushing twerking videos, so with TikTok. So
right. If you want to get ahead in life, what you fill your head with is very important, right? Sure, we all like a chocolate sundae once in a while, but if that's all you're eating,
99% of the time,
you got a problem. So I'm curious, Nic, about the production side of your show in the Nic of Time. I remember you having the big contest for like, what should I name this thing? This show, the Cold Star Project, I think I started doing it in 2018, maybe 2017. It's over 225 episodes. And you're at over 50, right? When you get to that point and you're over 6 episodes or a dozen episodes, far past what most shows ever get to, right? You learn a thing about the process. And so I'm curious about what you've learned about picking and booking guests and doing the work.
Yeah. I find it to be not too complex. I guess we're booked, often 4 months ahead. We get a lot of people that want to come. I guess we're the largest DoD show, but it's not very difficult because there's barely any competition. We get about 1,000 people live. Every. And, I guess my issue I'm facing now is, for the last probably 5 months, we've plateaued. And we're not growing in views, and it's been tough. I don't know. I don't really care, honestly, but I've yet to find a way to expand, I guess, the network. LinkedIn, it was so dependent on big tech. I think my biggest lessons learned, right? We were so dependent on LinkedIn, particularly. I have 45,000 followers there, and they barely sometimes share my posts to 300 people now. When it's important stuff, when it's me going after Atlassian, we get this week we got 110,000 views. But when it's learning videos or like, hey, join this event, even if we do all the tricks, to get the views, we don't get them. So I think right now I'm focused on building my own mobile app and my own we have our own mailing list and kind of notification system, so we're not dependent on those guys. But even emails, right? We see about a 20% opening rate, which is not bad, but it's it's not great, right? So then if people don't know about the show, how do you grow it? So I think the guest piece is fairly easy. We I guess my biggest struggle, I care and I don't care at the same time. It's kind of interesting is we don't have enough women on the show. I think probably had 5 or 6 out of 55 or 60. It's just not enough. But at the same time, I'm not looking like just for women. I don't care about gender. I don't care about race. I don't care about what you like to do or don't do with your personal life. I care if you bring a cool expertise and you want to talk about it, and you're interesting to talk to. But unfortunately, I guess in our industry, there's not a lot of women. Particularly when I talk to companies, they always get to pick. So I don't tell them, hey, are you going to send the CTO or CIO or CMO lady instead of the CEO male? I don't know. What's been interesting, I guess, is the volume of Indian, often Americans, but still born in India, immigrants, which is great. I think they are really I would say controlling the C-suite of many tech companies nowadays. It's very interesting to watch. They're clearly doing something right in their education. I can tell you that. I think when I talk to them, it's always about how they were able to learn. So clearly, that's a pretty good lesson learned for America there in terms of how do we build the next generation STEM people. So that's kind of what we learn. It's a lot of, it's work, but it's not rocket science. I think the prep is 45 minutes. The episode is an hour and a half. We don't have a team to help us really do all the visuals and stuff, so it's pretty basic. Maybe we need to improve that. There's a lot of stuff we need to improve, but we don't take advertising. We don't take it's nothing is paid, so there's no bias. I think that's very important. So we don't make money with the show whatsoever. It's a money waste, I guess. But it's fun. So
yeah, it's market development. Same thing with us, right? We don't take on sponsors. The only thing we have is our relationship with the Operational Excellence Society, because I'm an OpEx guy, and I believe in the mission. That is in kind, right? There's no money involved. It's just us talking about it. So yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the general state of software security in the United States. You've had all these guests on the show, 50 odd of them over the last year. What have you learned from them? Because you came into this with a great body of knowledge, right? And I imagine like certain things were confirmed, or there were little details where you were like, oh, that's not quite like that, and I'm interested in hearing about those.
Yeah, we had a lot of amazing guests, both in the next wave of products coming with a software bill of material work, that was pushed by the executive order of the president, pushing both the Zero Trust and SBOM. And I can tell you, on both sides, we covered it quite a bit on the show. People that want to really learn about Zero Trust and how to actually do it for real, not bloated. I had an episode where we called it, let's debunk the Zero Trust bloat, because people use the term now for everything. So I think we did a pretty good job kind of explaining to the audience at different level of maturity, both what it takes to do it and what really you are looking for in terms of outcomes. So it's been fun. I think what I learned is there's a lot of diversity of options, a lot of things to pay attention to on how you implement technologies, the risk of, particularly the risk of multi-tenancy hosting. You've seen many companies like Okta and other companies get hacked, impacting multiple of their customers. In that use case, it was 5%, which sounds not like a lot, but it is a lot of people, depending on who was targeted, of course, a lot of companies. And so, when you look at the risk of multi-tenancy, particularly of critical capabilities like identity management, Zero Trust, all the Git services and CI/CD, people, my discussions with telco CIOs and bank CIOs, people are telling me, hey, they're walking away from SaaS multi-tenant service. They want to have the capability brought by the company into their Kubernetes cluster and their environments as a single tenant offering. And they're still willing to pay the SaaS price. They don't care, right? But it's about hosting and having visibility in the environment without depending on the SaaS provider to tell them what's going on. Because keep in mind, companies like Okta, for example, waited 3 months to disclose it to their customers, right? So, I think there's a lot of fear. I think what you see also is the malicious actors targeting now the DevSecOps / Git / development environment, build server of the world environments, and that's really targeting pre-production. And people were not ready for that. They thought of this as development environments, but it's now your crown jewel, because if people can get into that, they can get into your production systems too. And so what you've seen is, with Lapsus targeting even big and small companies going after the Git repos, the build servers. You've seen the Uber breach. We did a great video. That's the other thing we do, right? We had a video 2 days after the Uber hack, and we managed to talk to the hacker to gather intel that pretty much nobody had, to be able to do a step-by-step process of what the hacker did and how did he get in, and then laterally move to the crown jewel all the way to become a full admin of their identity management stack, and be able to exfiltrate data there. That video, came out, 2 days after the hack, and that's the kind of stuff that people like. They want to see what's going on and how to prevent it.
Right. Yeah, you were able to get some really good, basically real-time feedback after the event.
Yeah, we were on Discord on the chat with a hacker chatting live, asking questions. It was, people keep dismissing him as a kid that just used a few tricks, but he was smarter than people think. It's always easy to dismiss talents, but
right. The armchair quarterbacks out there, yeah, they have an edge. So
right.
if you could wave a magic wand, Nick, and like get a couple of ideas about DevSecOps into the heads of leaders and developers, what would they be?
Well, one, I think, is to understand the importance of DevSecOps. As an investor myself, when I look at the key criteria in 2023 to pick where to invest, I would tell you, of course, the team and the product matters, but I can tell you in the top 3, I would definitely put the DevSecOps maturity of the team. So trying to see if they are able and capable of moving at a pace of relevance and having that baked-in security and that process in place to be able to bring software to life in small increments in production in the hands of the end users with a very fast pace, without putting the company at risk of both cybersecurity and mistakes. So that maturity of enablement is complex, because you end up having startups that need 10, 15 people just to build DevSecOps stuff so they can then focus on innovating, and that's just not going to happen. So people will go to different services and different options. That's great. And I help, I'm on the board of a few companies that do that, but the key aspect is, how do you understand it and how do you pay attention to it? And more importantly, we released a video on how to measure it, right? I think the metrics of your velocity and security and DevSecOps maturity is essential to track. As an investor, if you can't answer, your mean time to production, mean time to recovery questions, I'm not going to invest in your product in 2023. Is too important not to know. It just tells me you're not paying attention to the key enablers to bring you to success. So I think first is, people need to realize that this is not just some tech stuff. This is business enablement. And more importantly, I would argue you cannot compete in a world of that kind of velocity without it. So, people that just dismiss it as nice to have are very wrong. The other piece is, not getting locked into a single cloud provider or a single technical stack is so essential. Being modular and flexible, right? And have the ability to swap and make decisions and try new things is what makes, companies able to innovate fast and compete. So that's the other piece that DevSecOps would enable you to do. And of course, the last piece, if you actually do DevSecOps and not DevOps, is the baked-in security aspect of zero trust. In my time in DoD, one of the biggest achievement we did was to publish the DevSecOps reference design and the architecture publicly, so companies could adopt it. And that was a 500,000 download in the first week, by the way, which is for DevSecOps PDF, it's pretty unheard of. And so you see now multiple telcos, banks, and healthcare companies reach out to me and ask, hey, if you could do this for banks, for bombs and bombers and jets and space systems and nuclear systems, you can probably help me for my banking stuff. So again, I think that's the enabler of moving to zero trust and moving to moving target defense and the continuous monitoring with AI/ML prevention. So that's really the key, right, to secure your network and your systems.
Okay, Nic, this has all triggered a basic question. I mean, I've known you for over a year. I've got a pretty good idea of who Nic Chaillan is, but I've never blatantly asked the question, like, what is the mission that you're on? And like we all have, as leaders and visionaries, only 24 hours in a day. How do you decide what deserves your attention and what to just drop?
It's tough, right? Because I like to help people as a whole. I particularly when they deserve it and they're putting the work and trying to do right. So I take a lot of calls. People reach out to me all the time, and I try to help both companies that want to get into DoD and also people that just want to succeed in life as IT professionals. My main goal right now is very much still the same. It is to make sure that our kids have a fighting chance at winning against China 20 years from now. And I can tell you, since I left, my fear is growing, both because we see the division right in the nation now between the parties and the people, and that's very concerning. Even the talk of a civil war is very scary to me. But also, like, you see the momentum gaining on anti-American from people born in the U.S. That is just mind-boggling to me. I had someone reach out to me actually just yesterday morning to tell me, hey, I won't even listen to your stuff because you have an American flag behind you, and it's on my background. Wow. And he's American, he's American, right? And apparently Stanford yesterday decided that saying we're American is also racist, so we can't do that. Yeah. So I will still do it because I don't care, but
I would do it on purpose now. So
I will still do it on purpose. So I don't care.
And folks,
if
Civil
you listen
War.
to people, you can't use words anymore, right? So soon you have no dictionary, I don't care. But so I think the goal is still China, right? And that takes multiple facets, right? One is we need the best of breed companies to come and do business with DoD and the government, so we have access to best technologies. We need to do better at private public partnership and go back to the days of ALPA, during World War II, when we had the right engagements between the public and the private sector. We need to win at every battle, whether it's space, quantum compute, AI, machine learning, right? Hypersonics, right? All this key capabilities. I can tell you the nation that's going to be controlling AI, machine learning will control the world, right? And so when I hear AI, ML companies refuse to do business with DoD and say, hey, I can do business stuff, but I'm not going to help in any way, shape, or form, with anything related to weapons, even intel, intelligence, right? Gathering or image detection on satellite to be able to see what we're targeting better, which by the way would have prevented us from bombing the bus, during the Afghanistan debacle where we killed 13 kids by accident. If we had better imagery technology detection, we would have known there's kids in the bus, and we would probably not have bombed it. So companies that just show up and say, hey, I'm not going to help you. Well, you just helped kill 13 kids. So thanks. But that's the kind of stuff that people need to understand. And there's two bubble, right? We have the kumbaya bubble in the Silicon Valley, right? And then we have the complacency / incompetence really bubble of DoD. And I think if they don't pop and merge into and join us into the real universe of the actual real life, where we have the fear of competing against China, but also the velocity of innovation that you see on the commercial side. I always tell people, if we sent the Pentagon leaders for 2 weeks at SpaceX, their head would implode. They couldn't take the velocity. They have no clue how to move at a pace of elephants. It's not a thing. They're just used to that. And by the way, it's good that I left, because you becoming part of the problem when you stay too long in the building, you get used to that lack of velocity. And I was starting to even adjust my timelines because I knew how the building would work. And that's how you become the problem.
Well, you just brought up a ton of stuff. I've got China questions here, obviously. We'll get back to that. I've touched on that. Interesting that you brought up the World War II private-public partnership type thing. Shows you know your history, which not everybody does. Roosevelt used to, folks, take a guy from industry, a business owner, and promote him to the rank of general in the army, and it would piss off the career guys because they spent 25 years, gaining the rank, right? And suddenly this guy just pops into existence because he got the genie wish, right? But that was the way that Roosevelt figured they needed to get influence on railways and things like that in order to get things done, right? So that
It's the same thing, by the way, they do with us on the civilian side. I was appointed, but I was an equivalent to a general officer in the building, and obviously the career SCSs and generals, I would say, don't like that too much, right? Being just dropped, particularly at 38 years old. I was probably 35 at the time, so that's obviously a different story too.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. So what is the biggest factor about China that you think they're going to overtake and beat us on? Is it the economic simply, or is it technological, military? What's the area we should
It's
be
everything,
most
right?
concerned?
That's the issue, right? You're not, and that's what China is doing very well, right? They don't have the silos we have, between DHS, Department of State, DoD, right? It's a cohesive war engagement against the United States to control the world. Both they infiltrated the schools, the stuff we were talking about with Stanford and all that woke nonsense has been pushed by China for 30 years. It just took a long time to pay off. That's the kind of investment that China is able to do, which is kind of the next generation, war fighting. It doesn't involve weapons, right? Not the normal kind of weapons. You see the same now. Let's face it, they've invested drastically both in their Navy, Air Force, stealing our IP, right? But also innovating on the machine learning data side. They created the Shanghai Data Exchange back in 2016. That was genius on their part, right? No other nation had even realized the importance of data. And the Shanghai Data Exchange, went to companies in the U.S. and Europe and say, hey, if you want to sell to China and other companies, you can come sell your data to in this exchange like stocks. And oh, by the way, the CCP is going to get a free copy of your data, but let's not talk about it. And then right, they created this ecosystem of data gathering in massive volumes. On top of that, of course, they they're a communist state, and they of course have data on all their people with massive surveillance and cameras and anything from face prints and voice prints. And then of course we were dumb enough here in the US and in Europe to allow TikTok to exist, which is now the biggest CCP intelligence weapon capability that they could ever dream about, gathering intel of millions of US citizens. You have 40% of kids under 24 use TikTok as a primary search engine. TikTok gather not only all your information from your phone at way more length and depth than any other app you have, but they also do voice prints and face prints. So now you're going to tie this with deep fakes. You're gonna see a massive wave of things we couldn't even think about 5 years ago. And we gave them the keys to our next generations. Of course, they hacked OPM, so they have all the previous government data, but now they also have all the new generation as well. And so that's and let's not forget that they control what they push and promote. China actually in Duyan, they did a study of the algorithm, and they realized it's as toxic as heroin, and so they limited the use of Duyan to 1 hour a day for kids under 14, and it's banned at night because particularly the brain of younger kids, you get addicted with a scroll up, right? And that's just very, very toxic, and of course when you're pushing on top of that the wrong kind of content, you're not only making us dumber, but you also control what they get to see and not see.
Right. No, there are people, Americans, who I hear who are far away from national security, who I never thought would be talking about this, who are bringing up the danger of TikTok. And we've talked about sort of the hearts and minds thing. what if a message is injected into TikTok for your teenagers saying Taiwan is a part of mainland China and always has been, and just repeats
I mean,
that
it's
over
already
and
what
over
they,
and
by the way,
over
it's
again?
already
Yeah.
happening, right?
Yeah.
It's not maybe, it's already slowly happening. It's not, and they're very smart, right? They never go full scale, explosion type, events. They do it slowly, incrementally, right? They're very patient, right? And that's been their key of the art of war and fighting with the CCP. They're very good at what they do. And the fact that they're not fighting between departments and between agencies, state has no clue what DoD does. There's just barely any engagement. Same for commerce and DHS. Meanwhile, China is laughing at us, right? And our 81 pronouns.
Right. Yes, folks. Nick just brought up a great point about state and defense not really talking to each other. This is not just Nick. I had Dave Walker, the past comptroller of the United States, on twice on my show, maybe more. I like Dave a lot, and he brought up the fact that there's no cohesive strategy for planning at all between these departments and the budget in the United States, and so you've got the China is run by well, obviously we know it's a dictatorship, and they have more like agricultural folks, scientists, tech people, and that. Our guys are all lawyers, and so our representatives keep fighting each other in a way, and so there's no long-term planning, particularly when you're a representative and you need to look 2 years, right? I need to get reelected. It's a different show than over there, where they're able to. I'm not saying they don't have infighting and intrigue and things like that, but they are able to plan longer and have more cohesiveness with their budgets and their strategy than we are.
Well, and when they do fight, though, it's never about the party, right? So it's never going to go against the party. There's no dissident voice allowed, which is good and bad. I guess they're going to pay the price. I'm not saying they're going to succeed at it, but so far it doesn't look good because you're also talking about 1.4 billion people that are very hardworking and love their nation, and they're not waiting for us to figure it out. So term limits is probably a good option for Congress, but the other piece is the silos in the government. To talk about agencies, I would argue it's not just no coordination between state and commerce and DHS and DoD. It's no coordination inside of DoD, inside of state, between the silos within these agencies. It's mind-boggling, the reinventing the wheel and lack of engagements and coordination. When I created the DevSecOps initiative in DoD, we created the largest community of practice. 1,200 people and teams were part of this community of practice. That was never ever done at that kind of scale, and it took a lot of outreach and engagements to get everybody at the table, but that paid off, with adoption. And you're always going to find, some toxic people that just want to have their little fiefdom, and looking at their success as if it's how many people they have in their teams and budget, right? And that's very toxic. And you're not going to find that too much, in China.
Okay, you're reminding me of Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister with the fiefdom idea, right?
Yeah.
So Humphrey Applebee's, how many people have I got working for me, and what's my budget, and then continuity.
But it's interesting, right? Because you can fall trap to that, right? I found even myself being getting addicted to the yes sir, people standing when you walk in the room. It's your ego playing against yourself, right? You get used to that because you're trading off pay, right? And so you less pay than at least for me, at least a 10x cut, but most people could at least make double or triple, but in exchange you're getting power, right? And it's addictive and toxic, and it is scary, right? And the yes sir, I remember when I started, I would tell people to call me Nick, right? And then people always say no sir, sir, yes sir, and then I would get surprised or even sometimes annoyed when I left, right before I left, when people would call me Nick without calling me sir, right? So I became part of the problem again, right? And it's good to take a step back and realize all this stuff.
Yes, very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that personal little bit there. Let's talk about InfraGard for a moment. It seems to be there like the security guys got hacked. Folks, if you're not noticing, and I didn't because my assistant brought this to my attention, which is great. Good job, Maya. That the FBI business database basically got hacked, and the hacker talked about how they did it and that. I'm curious about your opinion on it. What could have stopped it from happening? What other kinds of software-based platforms should we be worried about?
Well, I've never been too impressed about both the DHS and FBI data sharing capabilities. Very much stuck, 10, 20 years, in time. Obviously in this case it's tough because you're dealing with 80,000, people, CEOs and other high-level executives. In this case, a CEO of a company got his account breached, and then they managed to literally move into the system and exfiltrate the entire database. So now they know exactly who are the most valuable target in the United States to target for cyber attacks, which is great for China. And it's just mind-boggling, obviously, kind of the lack of basic cyber hygiene, multi-factor authentication. But at the same time, it's the intel you get on these platforms is very much, not meeting the level we should expect. But at the same time, what you've seen is, the FBI teams are struggling to engage with the private sector. You've seen maybe the Twitter files, right, with the FBI engagements. You're you're threading on a thin line, when you reach out to companies, because again, if you're starting to promote different ideas of maybe limiting, misinformation, disinformation, Russia, it might be true, might be not true, maybe we're wrong and it's not, who knows, right? The motivation both of the people in the FBI, but also the companies, and it's just a very dangerous set of engagements. Looking back after I read the Twitter file, right, I started to realize I too was probably the single government person that would engage the most with industry by far, right? I had Ask Me Anything events, 80 questions every 2 weeks live for 2 hours. We had 750 companies that we brought into duty that never worked with the department before, removing bottlenecks of accreditation and acquisition. So I really believe we need, a deep integration and collaboration between the public and the private sector. But at the same time, I realized, I was also pushing like companies to be better at security, and I would look at their, cyber findings, like companies like Atlassian, and be like, hey, you have 1,200 CVEs, you need to do something about it, or we're going to ban you, So, you're doing your job, right? You want to keep the warfighter safe and the data safe and the nation safe. And so it's a difficult line because you have multiple hats throughout the day. And again, the ego and the power could get to your head or not. I don't think it did for me for these engagements, but I could see maybe from the outside how people thought of me as either being their best friend or their biggest enemy.
Well, you're the most
by the
prominent.
way, my goal is to be disliked by 30% of the people. Okay, if you don't have a minimum, then you're not doing your job. So I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Stand for nothing, fall for anything. So very, very important. All right, second to last question here, Nick. You had posted a video about how to stop change management from being your biggest bottleneck. And as an OpEx guy, what? What the heck? Because there's culture and there's co-creation, maybe or maybe not, maybe dictation from above, right? Implementation, people fighting you without actually saying it, right? But they're resisting implementation of things like that. Very, very common, folks. This in any organization of any size. So I want to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, there are multiple pieces, right? It's part of your broader DevSecOps engagement. Of course, you can't get there without the basics of DevSecOps. You're gonna have to watch the other videos. But when it comes to the change management piece, if you're moving to what we call GitOps, which is kind of this concept where everything is in code, including your policies, access control, change management policies, everything is now a change of code. And to do that, you have multiple set of eyes to approve the change. based on the criticality of the change, you could say, hey, I need 2 people to approve it, 3 people, right? So instead of having these big change management boards and meetings and monthly meetings, now it all becomes a Git pull request, and all people got to do is connect to Git and approve and reject, look at the change, but the most important piece, of course, is how do you decide who has the power to approve or reject what change and under what constraint, and that's where we promote both ruthless automation to remove humans when we don't need them, but also delegation down to the right people. And I think that's part of the fiefdom nonsense again. People just like to keep the power, right, and keep the control. If you delegate, right, to people at the lower rank that actually know the stuff, by the way, better than you do, and they can make the right decisions, you're gonna see, slowly but surely, not only better security but also better innovation. You want to have control of that, and it cannot just be one person. So then you delegate to 2 or 3 people, right? You've seen, with FTX, they were effectively doing the same thing over chat on Slack, and it was emojis that would approve or reject massive spending of expenses. That's probably not the best idea without any kind of tracking and stuff. But with Git, you have full control, full tracking. You can go back and see who did what, who approved what, how, under what conditions, constraints, and the Git system can also enforce different set of rules. In fact, we had multiple set of rules, so you couldn't override some decisions of the CI/CD pipeline, or you have to go and pass those scans and tests and things before you can approve it. And if you have to overwrite the CI/CD pipeline, then you need more people to come and override that first to be able to then approve the change. So you have this kind of baked in change management process on a daily basis, instead of compounding it to weekly, monthly meetings.
Okay. I think you saying that, what jumped into my mind was Orikit, produced by a French company. They're open source, low level flight dynamics library, and I think it was open source decision making too. Like the whole party, the whole group voted on what do we do next, what feature do we develop next, and I really like that.
It's like Elon Musk votes on Twitter, I guess.
Right. Remember, folks, the frontline people are touching the problem. So it's great to be a manager or leader or whatever, but don't forget, and I never forget this, you are abstract at several levels from the actual problem, right? With your spreadsheets, your reports, your pro forma statements, etc. You are not really dealing with reality there. You are dealing with a summarized version of it. And so the people on the front
I can tell you, by the time it gets to you, it's already 5 layers different from what I would look at briefs, and I would be part of the teams in big DoD programs, and by the time we got to SecOps, I can tell you the story went to like, hey, we're in a terrible shape, to like, we're the best team ever, right? And SecOps is hearing all this completely false advertising from the DoD teams, and that was very scary to me to see, kind of slowly from from the major to the 1-star, 2-star, 4-star to the SecOps, how the deck would evolve into a good story. I can't help to believe that it's malicious.
Okay. Well, it's not dealing with reality. that's terrible, right? The highest value of this company is our highest value here at Cold Star is the truth with capital T's, and that often makes me have to grit my teeth and take my medicine and not enjoy what's going on at the moment, but no, hey, I can steer the ship here. We can actually go somewhere, rather than believing that everything's great. So Nic, let's wrap up with this. Who do you want to talk to? What kind of conversations do you want to have, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so the best way to connect to us is on LinkedIn, and reach out directly there. We want to talk to everybody that's in tech innovation. We need to do better in some industries like automotive, space, banking. I think we want to expand next year to broader than just government. We also want to do better on the .gov side. Didn't have enough guests, when it comes to DHS, IRS, all the .gov agencies. So we love, reach out to us. We're booked 3-4 months ahead, but we can get you on schedule and and get you to be the next speaker. And you know, the views you get is pretty fun, and you get live questions, so you get to see what people think about what
Right.
you're talking about and get some feedback on that too. So that's always good. So
And that's very important. Yep, folks, get out of the building, get out of the bubble, go talk to Nick.
No vacuum. No
Great,
vacuum.
great experience. All right, Nic Chaillan, thanks for doing this. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining Nic Chaillan and I on the Cold Star Project. If you are looking for help with commercializing your space or defense concept, get a hold of us. Go to coldstartech.com and pick a time to speak with me. And in the meantime, I also recommend you go check out the America's Future Series website and see what national security and space tech conferences are coming up. We'll see you again soon.